This meeting is being recorded.
Hi there, welcome to the next episode of Writers Talk, a series in which I talk to writers about, well, writing. Only today, we're doing something different. Tim and I, we're going to be talking about Doctor Who, The Curse of Fenric, and this is something we're going to be doing every fourth week, but not always about Curse of Fenric. We'll have something different each time. Might not even be Doctor Who next time. It might be, well, Stranger Things. It could be, Tim, it could be what?
Oh, Quatermass in the Pit.
Oh, the Hammer one?
If you want.
Because that's the only one I have.
Okay, well, we'll stick to that one.
So you see, so it could be anything, but basically two writers talking about other writing in some sort of visual media, minus any video clips, because obviously we don't do copyright nonsense here. So, okay, so.
We don't need that.
No. And besides, I don't know how. Maybe one day we'll get around to it, but for now, we'll just be two guys chatting about stuff that we enjoy watching, hopefully enjoy watching, because we may not enjoy it. You can't always guarantee we're both going to like it, and that's not a bad thing. Okay, so, by the way, this is Tim, who, of course, I've mentioned by name. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Andy.
Tim is fairly often co-author of mine of late. He's also written many Candy Jar book projects, from Lethbridge-Stewart to Lucy Wilson Mysteries to Unit. Nothing else yet outside of those three?
Not for Candy Jar, no.
Not yet. And he, of course, he's done some Sherlock Holmes stuff for
Belanga Books and MX Publishing.
For them. And he's written some Blake Seven stuff for Big Finish, as well as Bernie Summerfield stuff.
That's right.
And I believe something for Obverse, which is coming soon.
When probably next month when Stuart Douglas gets back from his holiday.
Hey, holidays are good. By which time this will definitely be up. So it'll be in 3 weeks. Ish. Cool. Okay, so let's talk The Curse of Fenric. Or shall I say, let the chains of Fenric shatter. You can go first. You start off because you've got loads of notes. I just got my head.
Well,
we'll start by saying it's brilliant. See, I muted myself then.
Indeed, nicely done. The Curse of Fenric is an excellent story. It's a story that I know pretty well because it's one of the few at the time that I was able to record off the telly.
Yes.
Me
too.
Betamax video cassette.
So, VHS here. Did you time it so you could actually get all the episodes linked together? Literally cut off from where he's like, what's this? And then carrying on to the next scene. Like they did in the Special Edition, but with just pause and record quickly.
No, I wanted all the credits in between.
You was one of them.
Yeah,
it's actually interesting. The version I just watched today in preparation for this was the 4-part. And it's the first time I've seen that since the DVD came out, which was quite a while ago now.
Yeah, about 2000.
The special edition came with, the special edition came along, and frankly, it was better because it was one of those rare occasions where the stuff they put back in actually helps the story. Yeah. And just watching the 4-part now, it's like, I forgot some of the stuff they actually put back in. I remember most of the big stuff, but there was just a few little lines here and there. I'm like, oh, I forgot that was a cut because it's been so long. But let's talk about Fenric anyway. We're not going to go episode by episode because that could take us a while.
It will.
We'll meander through it and go timey-wimey.
Just as a starting point, then, I know we've spoken before about how you approach an individual project for a certain medium, or
we have talked about that,
a particular type of writing project, whether it's a novel or a short story or whatever. Watching Curse of Fenric this time, kind of focusing only on the broadcast version.
Mm-hmm.
The the thing that struck me most watching it this time was that I don't think I think Ian Briggs and Andrew Cartmel were probably too much involved with the concepts that they were playing with and the characters, and they I think probably got a little carried away, which is why the story is so dense and so long.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you've got is you almost need someone at a step back from that, which is, I suppose, in a sense, now is us as viewers looking at it from a writing perspective and thinking, okay, the remit there was to write essentially four 23-minute pieces of television that tell a story over 4 episodes.
Yeah. Your visual keeps cutting out, but I can hear you, so carry on.
Actually,
oh, I could hear you. Oh, has he gone?
you got.
Oh, he's back. No, yes, there he is. Hello, Tim. Are you back?
Is
oh. Technical fault.
Something that
there you are.
That,
so you cut out. You cut out for a long time there, buddy.
Oh, now you're back. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you cut out for quite a while.
I was left with an image of you with your hand against the screen like that for ages.
And now you're like this.
It's quite disturbing.
Oh, there you are.
Now I'm like that, am I?
Oh, you're back now. Hello.
Oh yeah.
Technical difficulties. So you're talking about 23 minutes TV.
Yeah.
And then
so you got
this one may go to the editor.
I think it might have to, yes. So, you got the task is to write 4 23-minute pieces of television that tell a story over the 4 of them, and the Curse of Fenric does that as it is.
Yeah.
But it's obvious from what was cut and from the reactions of those involved that there was a like a better story underneath it that had to be compromised to fit into the timings available. So it's a shame that it had to be compromised. It's kind of a shame as well that it wasn't stopped at an earlier stage, an earlier draft, and said, well, hang on, we need to rein back some of these things, because what you're doing is good, but there's too much of it.
I see.
And it's that thing about being precious as well, about maybe just thinking, how am I getting carried away with the ideas?
I think it might be that. It might also be, because I know, and I'm sure you must have experienced this too. Well, actually, you've done audiobooks, but when you write an actual script, it could be, and this is what I look at when I see it, is that it may more likely have been, and I'm pretty sure Briggs has said this, so I might not be talking out my other regions. I'm trying not to swear so we don't get like chopped to pieces by YouTube. It may be a case of when he got a read crew to read through it, because this is what I do when I write a script. I read through it, time it. It's hard to account for obviously how the action is going to play out or how the actors are going to play the scene. So it may have been some of that, because I know for instance, when I did Secrets of Death's End, I wrote the 4 scripts, I timed them out, and they were roughly 25. Of course, when it came out, they were like some of the longest episodes that Big Finish have done for a 25-minute episode story, where they were like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes. So it might be some of that. But then it is one of those rare occasions when you watch a special edition, like I said, that almost everything that was restored or cut, depending on your perspective, sort of counts. And actually more so than the stuff, because watching the 4-parter just now, it is interesting how a lot of the connecting pieces of the script are absent. Like the whole background of the Great Serpent, it's pretty much gone. which is odd
completely.
because there's other stuff I would probably have trimmed down instead. And then you got the undercurrent background story between Militant and Judson. There's quite a few key lines cut from that, which also you don't know really what their background is unless you read the book or watch the extended edition, of course, because I mean, there's enough in there to, if you really, really pay attention, to see, oh, hang on a minute. Obviously, something happened between them when they were kids, because not until you see the extended or read the book, you realize actually it's because Judson and Militant had a thing for each other. Judson had his eyes on another boy, and Militant didn't like that and basically crippled him. But
that makes me laugh.
And all that is just it's kind of there, only a little bit, like in that little bit of that was 20 years ago. Why do you have to keep reminding me?
Exactly. And they're both 60 for a day. 20 years ago, they'd have been about 40. What were they doing at school?
Well, see, this is also another point, actually. It's a good, I like you mentioned that because it's fascinating, purely from a writer point of view, is that Mr. Rainwright, the vicar, Ian has mentioned that he was always written as a much younger character. The whole point was he's a fairly young vicar, which is why he gets admonished a lot by Miss Hardacre. Because, you know, when your father was, you know, vicar of St. Jude's, blah, 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 the whole point is saying you don't live up to him. But the fact that he's played by a much older guy who's actually similar age to Miss Hardacre, I suspect.
Yeah, they'd have both been about 60-ish at the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously now it plays as Miss Hardacre's talking about when she was a child too. As you know, because obviously if his father was the previous vicar, and presumably Mr. Rainwright's been a vicar for quite some time because he's that old, I'm assuming he became a vicar fairly young, then it plays quite differently because of the casting choices, but also plays quite nicely into the themes of the story, unintentionally, because the theme's all about growth, all about childhood versus adulthood. So I don't know, not unintentionally, but due to the casting, it certainly brings something out of the script that is there throughout the rest of the script, but not in that particular instance. But now it is because of the casting.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Yeah.
I think it just goes to show edits can make quite a difference.
They do. And when I was... because of the way I was watching it this time, and like you, I haven't watched the broadcast 4-part version for quite a while.
Yeah.
The longer scenes and the scenes which were allowed to breathe there were some beautiful scenes there, and I just thought that it's a shame where there's an awful lot of like edited highlights feel about it because it's so close cut.
Oh yeah, it's very snap.
Jump.
Great for pacing.
It is, but I think I lost any sense of geography, for example. It was difficult for me to work out where everything was in relation to everything else because everything was so tightly cut.
Yeah.
And you get that awkward situation where a character has just finished one conversation with someone, like Ace, for example, showing Dr. Judson about the flip-flop thingy and it being a logic diagram. And then the next, it cuts to her appearing next to the doctor.
Well, there's another
something else, and it just needed that extra little bit of room to breathe.
Well, there's another great 2 scenes that actually highlight that when I was rewatching. I keep saying just now, but obviously it wasn't just now because we've been talking for a bit. Earlier, there's the bit obviously when Ace first learns about the baby's name, and then Militant comes in, and she's like, "Oh, you're starting to irritate me." Cut. Next scene, they're entering Militant's office. Well, of course, in the extended version, and obviously the way it was intended to be, you have the whole scene where they're hiding behind one of the barrack buildings, and he's walking off, and Ace wants to go and club him with one. The doctor's like, "Not now, Ace," and that's where they go off to go and check his room, his office. But as you say, without that scene, it's a very odd cut. You're like, huh? They literally just walk. What? It's odd. I mean, A, it takes away a little bit of the tension and the character building, and B, it just, even from a TV point of view, it's a very strange cut for seeing two characters leaving a scene, and next shot they just already arrived at the next scene. There's usually something in between, because that's TV. There's not usually a bridging moment to get a character from A to C, as it were. But yeah, it's an odd thing. I mean, I don't think it necessarily damages the story, because the story, even on the 4-part version, which is unfortunately cut in quite severe ways, it's still, I mean, the beginning, middle, and end, and everything in between, it's still there. You know what's going on, mostly.
Yeah,
I think
it rattles along at a heck of a pace, and it's atmospheric and it's engaging and it's just very well made. It's a quality production. It's just that the aspect of the, I suppose, of the story and of the production that were kind of compromised slightly just to try and fit it into the time available. Because there's no doubt. I mean, I loved it when it was on, and I've enjoyed it every time I've
for sure
I watched it since.
It often sits very near the top of my favorite Who ever, and sometimes sits at the top, to this day. I mean, when you compare it to his previous script, Mr. Briggs, Dragon of Fire, which at the time I enjoyed, but it hasn't aged particularly well. But although you could argue that's a large part of the production design as well, and the fact that different actors were playing it in a very different way, because you've heard stories of Sylvester's walking on snow, slippery acting, and everybody else is walking in the studio. And it's very weird to see, one sliding, one just walking like, what are you sliding around for? But even then, as a story, it's a lot weaker. And I mean, it's got some good bits, but it doesn't hold a candle to Curse of Fenric. And even when you look at Fenric within the context of season 26, it's still, and it's surrounded by some really good stories. It's still
very much
way up there. Yeah.
The other big thing I noticed, and because what I did, I watched it earlier in the week, and I watched it one episode at a time. I just had some time. Had some time to think about it afterwards. The end of the first episode, I realised the Doctor's on the move the whole time. He basically doesn't stop, really, that whole episode. It's just, and what it made me think is that he's. I struggle as a kind of casual viewer. I struggle with the story to pick out who my focus is, who's the audience perspective in the story, and what I realised at the end of the first episode is that as the Doctor basically just sort of dances through all of these scenes one after another, and Ace goes to sleep for a bit and all that stuff. It's like he's showing the audience. These are all the characters. He's
basically going around saying, "Listen, audience, this is a story. These are the players. These are the players." Yeah, which is actually worked good because it fits the chess master thing when you think about it.
Well, yeah, exactly. The only problem with that, and this happens later in the story as well, is that because the Doctor's aware of what's going on the whole time, and
I'm going to be interrupted by my cat again. Carry on.
Oh, fair enough. Go for it.
Yes, darling. So carry on, don't we?
Because
talk my cat, not you.
I'm not offended at all. That's fine. Because he knows what's going on. That's a chess master character. And because Ace is one of the wolves of Fenric, anyway, there were times when I thought it's struggling to develop a real sense of jeopardy for any of the characters, because the Doctor's, it's difficult to see the Doctor's really striving for anything all the way through. He seems to be sort of trying to sort of manipulate people, but the one opportunity he's got when he finds that Ace has got the flask, for example, that's his opportunity to try and deal with the situation. They get to the end of the tunnel.
I'm listening.
That's
right. For live TV, this, isn't it?
Millington takes the flask and the parish records and walks off. And the Doctor doesn't do anything to try and retain those items. And you think there's a perfect moment there for some conflict.
Well, yeah, because Millington just snatches off him, and that's it.
Yeah, and then a little later say, "Yeah, we've got to get that stuff back." I said, "Well, you should have put up more of a struggle when he got taken away." And
but then
the Doctor is free to roam the whole time. I mean, there are instances when he's less so, but he's never incarcerated, or there's no real struggle there. And
but couldn't you counter that with maybe that's kind of the whole point with the Doctor in this story, in that when Millington took it off him, and the chest set, because he takes everything off the Doctor, that maybe the Doctor let him because, again, he was manoeuvring Millington. He knew that Judson needed this a flask, because he wanted Fenric to manifest so he could actually defeat him properly. So maybe it's not so much he's being a passive character so much as because I remember Andrew Cartmell said on an interview on one of the DVD documentaries, I think, that he hates the word proactive. So I imagine he hates the opposite of that, being passive. He likes them just to be active parts of the story. But surely then you could argue that the Doctor is being an active part because he's deliberately pushing Millington because he knows Judson needs that.
Yeah,
maybe.
My only worry from that is that it doesn't give the casual viewer a focal point.
But would you even say there were casual viewers then? Really? Or were they telling it deliberately, knowing they're only going to be getting Doctor Who fans? I don't know.
Possibly. That's worrying. Anyway, if you're only writing it for
sure.
For fans,
Doctor Who's done that a few times over the years, and it's always ended bad.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know,
because the other thing the other point that stood out for me is that after the Hemovores rise from the water, for example, at the end of episode 2, they're marauding through. Devils. Indeed, oh yeah,
yes.
Because I like the cliffhanger at the end of episode 2, because it's quite a kind of what the hell's going on here moment, and they could have used the Hemovores rising, but they used it in the Sea Devils. They used it in Full Circle.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they didn't go for the easy option there.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger to episode 1 is just horrible.
I think not going for the easy option is very season 26.
Yeah,
they never went for the easy option, which sometimes works, sometimes not so much.
That's true. But you've got these Hemovores have risen, and they're marauding through the base and presumably through the village and stuff as well. And no one does anything to stop them or to try and protect innocent lives. And it suddenly occurred to me this time. It's like they're just allowed to go off and do. The Doctor never tries to.
Because all we see is them attacking the church and obviously end up underground later with the Great Serpent and stuff. But of course, because there is obviously a village there, clearly. Yeah. But you're right. There's no implication of the. I don't know. Did they maraud, or were they just literally targeting the Doctor? But then they are essentially vampires, so they surely must have been attacking, because they killed Miss Hardacre for no apparent reason, really.
Yeah.
Because she's not like she's not connected in any way to the main story of what's going on at the base, or indeed the church, really, apart from the fact that she doesn't like Wainwright particularly. And the girls themselves, they're just purely connected by happenstance because they just happen to be in the sea at the wrong time.
Yes.
So
and I suppose you could potentially look at that and think that's something that could have gone.
So maybe the Hardacre thing where they go after it, maybe that's just the clue that yes, they did maraud in the village in some way. They did attack the village in some way. That's all we saw of it because that's the only kept. Yeah, I suppose you could say that's implied, maybe.
Because the other aspect of that as well is that when you've not got the Doctor striving to kind of protect people from the monsters, and he's just he's almost ignoring them to a certain extent. The narrative requires the monsters to be dealt with at the end, and so what you've got here instead is the ancient Haemovore has an ability to kill all the Haemovores.
Yes,
towards the end, but I don't know. It's always struck me as a like a convenience. It's we've got these monsters and no one's trying to do anything about them. How do we get rid of them?
That feels like a result.
It doesn't make any sense to me why he'd want to kill all of his.
I think that's possibly a result of the cuts because it's clearer in the extended edition of the impact of the Great Infernal and who he is and what he is and how he connects to the Haemovores generally. Whereas, as you say, in the TV version, which would have been primarily the first call for anybody who watched it originally, I am curious actually, for newer fans, would they have watched the 4-parter or the special edition, I wonder?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because I'm assuming on, what's it called, BritBox? That I assume that would be the 4-part version.
It will be the 4-part,
right?
Yeah.
So majority of people, newer fans certainly, because unless they've bought the Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever, they would presumably have watched the 4-part, which means they would miss some important details. Because, for instance, I mean, not only just the little character moments that are cut, because there's a lot of Wainwright story cut, really, quite a bit actually. Only small moments, but it makes up the whole of his story. But you got well, actually, no, I'll ask you. It's easier. When you first watched Fenric, did it on myself, did you, for instance, understand the ancient Haemovore's role in the story? And did you even realize that when the ticker tape comes out first, it's actually telling you he's coming because it actually gives you his name?
Is he Ingiga?
Right. I always said Ingiga, but yeah, Ingiga, I don't know.
Ingiga, yeah. Right, yeah.
That was, because I only remember that rather from the book, which obviously came about a year or so later, I think it must have been.
Yes.
I
don't remember it from the book. That was on the notes I made actually. I still was wondering who that was.
Yeah.
Because my assumption was that it was the name of the Viking that originally buried.
I shall tell you. I remember in the book because luckily I had the book out earlier because I had to take my promo pick. Carry on, and I'll find this.
Yeah,
I do recall this. My reading specs are on.
Again, as a result of the cuts, you've got that kind of awkward situation where the Doctor just appears to have a quick chat with the ancient Haemovore in the tunnels, and
so much of that was cut.
He's suddenly changed his mind about everything. He's got a whole new perspective on life. Because it then occurred to me afterwards, if it was me writing it, and if I still needed that I needed some kind of quick get out of jail card about how to get rid of the Haemovores, to have the ancient Haemovore kill them as part of his own redemption, as it were. So he realizes that he's being used.
Yeah.
And so he does that to try and scupper Fenric's plans after his conversation with the Doctor, because that to me makes more sense, because it gives him a stronger reason to do that, not just Fenric just sitting around saying, just kill them.
Just kill them, just like that.
Yeah. Doesn't that?
Yeah, there we go. It does say here. Sorry. First of all, when the name's first mentioned, it does say, "What did it mean?" Blah blah blah. Then later, during the when the ancient herbivore is facing Merton in the lab, it does say the monstrous figure of Ingiga faced Fenric in the laboratory. The ancient Ingiga spoke. So yeah, that's obviously where I remember it from the book. Because it's not clear in the extended version either that's his name. But
it's. I mean, I read the book.
You've wondered all these years.
I have.
No, there we go.
But it's nuts because I've read the book several times. Not within the last time I read it was about 10 years ago. But I read all the McCoy targets and then read all the New Adventures afterwards. And I don't remember. I'm obviously must have spoiled it, but it didn't stick in my head. But that's who, Ingiga is. So yeah.
I just thinking about it. I do wonder if the name was actually pulled from Geiger counter because of the radiation, which of course damaged or created the herbivores, all that poison and so on.
So in Geiger,
it might be in Geiger thinking about it. I would ask, but I don't know Ian Briggs, so I can't ask him. I'll ask Hartnell, he won't remember. It's a long time ago. It's like, I don't know. It was decades ago. Right, look, we've got 5 minutes on this before we have a maybe cut. So let's pause the conversation for temporarily, and we'll talk more for the viewers tomorrow, for us in a few minutes, because otherwise we may get cut off. So, general viewer, come back in tomorrow. I'm going to say in a few minutes for us, and we shall continue this conversation and maybe have a break in between, because writers, they like to talk.
This is true.
This is very true. So until tomorrow, gentle viewer.
Yes, indeed.
We have been Andy and Tim.
Tim.